it's Alicia here from We Do 3, back finally for another Trying to Conceive update. I am so sorry to have left you guys on a cliffhanger, as it would seem. In my last update, it was the end of cycle 14 and I was just waiting to see if I was going to get my period or a positive pregnancy test, and as I had predicted in that video, I did get my period and I am on cycle 15 right now. I know there were so many of you really thinking that those symptoms that I was having leading up to my period were pregnancy symptoms, and I totally can see why you would think that, because my progesterone was very high, so I was definitely having a lot of things happen that seemed like it would be. But as it turns out, it was really just the progesterone in my body kind of giving me a lot more symptoms than usual, because I had actually ovulated and ovulated strong. So it wasn't that much of a surprise for me, but I did feel pretty bad just because I knew that a lot of you out there were having high hopes for that cycle and, you know, we're kind of being fooled by my symptoms. I am not so easily fooled anymore, because I know that anytime I'm feeling a lot of symptoms, those are the months that I am usually not pregnant. So I've kind of, it's backwards in my head at this point of what to expect when I actually will be expecting. Like I said, I'm on to cycle 15 and we are doing a second round of Clomid, so I am on cycle day 15 of my 15th cycle. And I've been away for so long, mostly because we've been very busy around the house. I am at the end of the summer going to do a house tour and let you guys in on all the stuff we've been doing around here, but we just, since it's getting to be the end of summer, have had to step back from YouTube a little bit so that we can try to get a lot of our house projects that we had planned for this summer done before the end of summer. So we have a big work weekend coming up, as far as people coming up to help us finish some things up on the house, and a lot of projects that are labor and time intensive. Refinishing our hardwood floors is one of them, and so, you know, if you're trying to wonder why we haven't been doing videos, it has a lot to do with those projects and trying to get them done. It also has a lot to do with the fact that, as far as trying to conceive, we are going to get ready to take a step back, and I will go into that in just a little bit, but I am going to go ahead and just start with how cycle 15 has been going. This cycle we decided to stick with Clomid and stay at the dosage level that I was at. So I've had the 50 milligrams for 5 days, and I did it on days 3 through 7 this cycle instead of days 5 through 9 like I did last cycle. I switched the days to take it because of how my reproductive endocrinologist's office advises you to take Clomid. It's different than how my OB advised it. So I did decide to follow the RE instead of my OB's instructions, basically because I am now being seen by my RE instead of my OB and even my acupuncturist, to pretty much monitor my cycles and see how everything's going while it's happening. That being said, I did start taking OPKs around cycle day 9, and I continued to take them until I got a positive, which was yesterday. Yesterday was also my mid-cycle monitoring appointment, which, if you're not familiar with it, that's an appointment usually around the middle of the month that a reproductive endocrinologist will do an internal ultrasound to check your follicle sizes and make sure that you have some, they're developing, they're getting ready to, you know, release an egg, and that was yesterday as well. So I got really lucky. I had a positive OPK the day I went in for my mid-cycle monitoring. Positive OPK yesterday means that I will likely be ovulating today. And I did also get really good news at the reproductive endocrinologist's office during my ultrasound, in that I have one really big follicle on my left ovary and a very thick uterine lining, and she said that everything's looking great, and you know, as long as we're baby dancing a lot, you know, there's no reason at this point I shouldn't be pregnant. I have no idea why it's taken this long, but I have really high hopes for this cycle because it is our 3rd cycle past my HSG ultrasound. I do have one really good follicle, as she described it, and my lining is perfect. With Clomid, sometimes you can have a situation where your lining doesn't build as much as it needs to. Looks like that's not happening for me, so like I said, I'm feeling pretty good about this cycle. Otherwise, like I said, there's not a lot to update you on. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are going to start taking steps backward from our trying to conceive journey, at least for about 6 months. My husband does have another semen analysis coming up in September, right at the beginning. And unless there's something seriously wrong in that analysis where they'll look at like the morphology and the motility, they've already done his numbers, which are fabulous. So I'm really hoping that there's nothing else like, you know, hidden that they didn't see the first time. But barring anything being wrong with that, we are going to basically step back for 6 months about what we're doing with trying to conceive. If you've been watching for a while, you know I've tried it basically all. I have tried pretty much everything. I've done huge amounts of supplements, and I am very good about taking my temperature. I'm extremely consistent, and it's just we've done a lot of the things that you need to do before you start to get very serious about where you're going next with your trying to conceive journey. And because the next steps are so serious, we've just decided to put the brakes on for about 6 months and really give ourselves a break before we're going to get into that. So for the next 6 months, if this cycle does not work for us, we are going to switch, and I'm going to start taking metformin. For the next 6 months, or until January-ish, I will basically be focusing solely on losing a lot more weight and trying to get very healthy. I'll still be probably doing, we'll be not preventing, so I still will be monitoring my CM and my CP and doing my temperature. I'll be doing all of that still. We just won't be taking any hardcore fertility medication during that time, and we're just not gonna stick as much to a schedule. There are things that we are comfortable like continuing through that 6 months, and stuff that it's just like, that feels like too much. Most people, when they hit the end of when they can take their fertility medication, they go straight to like IUIs and IVF. We have not hit the end of when we can take our fertility medication, but because of a whole host of things, I don't really want to go 6 solid months taking Clomid. I would love to just step back for a minute, maybe save 2 or 3 more rounds for next year and see where we get then. I really do feel like taking a break will help us mentally and physically and spiritually. It's just, I think it's good every once in a while to just ease up a little bit, mostly for my own sanity. So I apologize so much for not having videos for the last 2 weeks. I realized that it was a bad place to leave off. Like I have said before though, I do update my Tumblr way more, and when we're getting into this phase where we're not going to be doing as much for my fertility, I probably will pull back on the trying to conceive updates quite a bit. I will probably continue them for the next 3 weeks, you know, as far as getting through this last cycle of really, you know, hardcore monitoring. But as soon as we start metformin and pull back a little, I'll probably take it down to maybe like 1 or 2 a month and then try to focus on other kinds of videos instead. So I apologize if that's really disappointing, but I think that when we come back to it next January, we're definitely going to come back just having like built up our strength again for going through a lot of disappointment, because trying to conceive is exhausting. I mean, it's exhausting mentally and physically, and it just takes a toll. So I think that we'll be really recharged for next January when we come back to it. And like I said, if something were to change, that would be based on like the analysis that Edwin's going to be getting, and this may all be moot, because if something is really seriously wrong, we may decide to do a procedure earlier than we expected and do something this year still. But I have a lot of other things that we're trying to kind of get through before we really bunker down into the fact we're gonna have to do some serious stuff we're trying to conceive. So thank you guys so much for being patient and waiting for this video. I'm so sorry again that it took so long. I know that a lot of you are going through the exact same thing that I am. A lot of you, in fact, are like at the exact same cycle mark and doing the exact same things, and I commend you for your bravery, because it is a trying time. It's exhausting. I feel like I'm really lucky to have been at a place right now where I'm at peace with it and feel okay. Right now I'm at a place where I'm kind of like, if we never have kids, I've come to being okay with that, and for a long time was not okay with that. So I feel like I've been blessed with some clarity over the last few weeks and month or two, and I just really hope that that's something that a lot of you also find, like whether it's being at peace with the struggle that you're in, or being at peace with the outcome of the struggle. I really hope that really good things happen for every one of my followers, and especially the ones that are going through the same thing. I know there are a lot of ladies, and I would mention them by name, but it would take me forever, that are feeling also put through the ringer, you know. It's a hard time. So I really pray and hope for the best for you guys, and I will be back next week to talk to you more. It sounds like I'm saying goodbye, but that is not true. I will be back. But thank you guys again so much for your support. I love your comments. I love your faces. I've heard really terrible things about metformin, so I'm not super looking forward to starting that next month. Leave your comments down below with your experience with it. Were you always sick on it? Was it terrible? Was it okay? Did you lose a lot of weight when you were on it? That's pretty much one of the main reasons I'm going on it, so I'm hoping that will help quite a bit. Otherwise, I will see you next week. I'll be in the 2-week wait, and we'll be updating you guys on how everything went and what it's looking like for the next week. I love your faces, and I'll see you then. Bye!